Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic from the Gold Coast in Australia. I wish we could start the show just 1 week without sort of saying that our thoughts and our prayers go out to somebody around the world. Well, this week we're going to be focusing with our friends in California with those terrible bushfires. And, you know, I know that there's been other weather events around the world in the last 7 days, but really at the moment I think our thoughts and our prayers need to go out to California. And it's really, really interesting how sometimes life synchronises with things that are going on around the globe. Last week I happened to purchase a new CD that was a remake of an old Mama and Papa's song by two Australian gentlemen here, Rick Price and Jack Jones, Jack Jones is one of my favourite singers of all time, and the actual album is called California Dreaming. So it's interesting that it's been on my turntable for about 8 or 9 days now, going around in the loop. I just, you know, I've played the rest of the album, but that particular song just kept grabbing me to sort of get involved and sing along with it. So maybe it was just trying to send out some positive vibrations to all our Californian friends. So anyway, we'll go on with the show. Each week we feature a Simply Tarot card of the week, which I designed about 13 years ago now with an Australian publisher. So this week's card is actually the Knight of Cups. Now, the Knight of Cups is one of these ambiguous sort of cards. When we start getting into the court cards, people sort of say, well, how do you know what we're looking at in a court card? I always say to people, a court card has 2 layers. The first layer is who it represents, and the second layer is a secondary meaning. So if the first layer doesn't fit you, then apply the secondary meaning. So the first layer is a young man up to the age of 25 years. Now, because we're doing a cups card, they would have blue eyes, light brown hair, blonde hair, they would be fair or Caucasian skin. Someone that's soft and gentle, not always, but that's just general rule of thumb, up to the age of 25. Second meaning of this card is needing to have more confidence in yourself or in your decisions or just every area of your life at the moment. And I think that can apply to a lot of us, that we need to maybe have a little bit more confidence going forward with the events and things that have been happening in our lives, particularly in the last 7 days. I mean, we had the very powerful full moon in Aries. And I know from the feedback that I got and the clients that I worked with, some people had a really tough time with this full moon in Aries. It was like it brought a lot of stuff to the surface, old stuff that they had to release and look at, and there was anger and fights and arguments and people snapping each other's heads off. Well, I'm pleased to say that energy's now died down and we can start to sort of have a little bit more calmness in our lives than what we've had. So that will lead me on to the next part of the show today. This week, as we do our little glimpse around the universe, I want to focus on 2 major areas that affects each and every one of us. Now, the first part is the sun is actually conjunct or holding hands with Mercury. So these planets are sitting currently in Libra, so I'm pleased to say it's a time that I feel we can have some very positive, calm, collected types of conversations, particularly if they're very busy or they're big, important events, or it's the time that you need to broach something with someone. This is the time when people do have their listening ears on. They're actually sort of prepared to look at things from another person's point of view. So hence the Libra energy, the scales, the bringing about the truth, bringing things into balance, and it's sort of a good time to negotiate or arbitrate if you need to be in that sort of position where you need to get your voice heard or you need to go into a very powerful meeting. This is the perfect time for that, or discuss something with a loved one or a child or somebody important in your life. Now is the time in the next 48 hours to do that. The second part I'd like to focus on this week is more connected to matters of the heart. Now, we all have matters of the heart, whether we're in a relationship or not. We still have relationships with people that we deal with in our day-to-day life. So when I talk about matters of the heart, we're not always talking about love and marriage or those types of relationships. We're talking about relationships in general, the people that we share a space with, the people that we connect with energetically. So this week again, we've got the planet Venus, or the planet of love and affection, is holding hands or conjunct Mars. Now, this is in Virgo, so this gives us a totally different slant to what we were just speaking about with the Sun and Mercury. This is asking us to really sort of stop, think, analyse what we're going to say. If we're going to be bringing up something that could have a little bit of a sting in the tail or something that we think that the other person may not be ready to hear. We're not to go in there with all guns blazing and sort of rant and rave and shove it down their throat. We're to try and find a more passive approach. Yes, we can be forthright with the message that we need to deliver or the subject that we may need to talk about that's very close to our heart. And this is more usually to do with things that are a very emotional nature, not necessarily something we're negotiating on. So if you have something like that that you need to deal with, just take a couple of deep breaths, maybe jot down some bullet points so that you've got something to work with so that you can keep your emotions in some sort of level playing field and allow them time to process and come back to you with what their response or their answer is. So that may just help you in the next 7 days as we work our way around the universe, and we all do. We all have transiting planets that are triggering off different events in our own personal charts, and that's not something that I can sit here and discuss for each and every person. I wish we could, but this is just a little general overview so that you can understand what's actually happening in the universe that may be just going to affect you in this next 7 days. I know most of the astrologers are talking about Jupiter just moving into Scorpio. We may discuss that next week. I really felt these two situations need to be talked about as they were more involving each and every one of us. But we'll have a little bit of a look at Jupiter moving into Scorpio in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to continue on with our second part of our mini astrology lesson that we do every week. This week we're up to the second part of Saturn, the planet of discipline, the planet of restriction, the father figure, moving through the next 3 signs. And the next 3 signs are Cancer, Leo and Virgo. So it's interesting when we put Saturn with Cancer. A lot of people sort of cringe and they think, oh dear, Cancer's so soft and gentle and pliable and sort of doesn't like too many restrictions, doesn't like to be told anything, doesn't like to be criticised or chastised in any way. And that's all very true. But what they fail to realise is Cancer is a very emotional sort of energy, but it also craves structure. It also craves a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling safe and secure, which is what actually Saturn can bring to the combination here. Is it can make the Cancerian watery emotional energy feel quite safe, quite secure, because there is structure, there's rules in place, there's a direction to follow. So they actually do work together very, very well. And it also enhances the ability for the Cancerian energy to be able to feel their way through a situation, whether it's on a psychic level or on an emotional level. It gives them sort of some sort of structure or some protection around that as well. So they actually do work very well together. So we now move on to Saturn and Leo. I mean, what a wonderful combination this is. Here's Saturn coming in saying, now, come on, we're going to bring some structure and some order to your life. I'm here to give you some positive, constructive, disciplined sort of ways to approach your life. And Leo says, yeah, I know it all. You know, I'm the king of the jungle after all, so why do I need your help? You know, I know how to structure things in my life. I've been doing it so well without you, so, you know, you can take a seat over there, and if I need you, I'll call you. Well, that's not always the way Saturn likes to. Saturn doesn't like to take a back seat. So Saturn will work that way for a little while, but then all of a sudden he'll come in and say, hang on a minute, you're not doing this right. Let's join forces and let's work together and let's take this to another dynamic sort of level. So after a bit of pushing and shoving and a bit of toing and froing and probably a few arguments there between the two of them, they do come to some sort of arrangement where, you know, Leo still thinks that they're in control of everything, but Saturn just lets them think that. But really Saturn's probably the more dominant energy here, and he's guiding the Leo through the maze of what needs to be changed or what needs to be stabilised in their lives. So the final energy we're going to look at this week is Saturn in Virgo. Now, a lot of astrologers sort of would probably disagree with what I'm going to say, because they're going to look at Saturn and Virgo being really good together, and they probably are very good together in most times, where Saturn likes the structure and the discipline and all those sort of things, and Virgo likes to analyse and to take things steady and to not get overexcited. So in that sort of sense, they have a very similar structure or a very similar energy that makes up how they like to structure and function throughout an astrology chart. But the one thing that I find is a little bit that concerns me with this is that sometimes I think they can both get so bogged down in what is right and what is structure and what is order that they forget that they're missing the opportunities that are there because they're too bogged down in the fine print or making sure everything looks, precise and is perfect, that we forget that life isn't always perfect and life does have some rough edges, and sometimes we've just got to work with that and push through those boundaries and keep going. So that would be my only little bit of criticism there, that sometimes I think they slow each other down. And I think sometimes they're trying to outdo each other as if in a competition, where if they cut a bit of that away and move things along, I think it could be a much more powerful combination. So this brings me to the next part of the show. We will be featuring the third part of Saturn through the signs next week, where we'll move on to Libra, Scorpio and Sagittarius. But as for those that are regular viewers, last week on the show we started a new segment where we're talking about soy candles. So this week the candle that I've chosen to talk about today is the candle that represents the energy of Libra. Now, we know for the moment that the sun's going through Libra, so this is the perfect candle for any Libra that needs to bring or wants to bring about changes in their lives. And the reasons why I work with candles is, if you set your intention, your purpose and your direction correctly, you can bring anything towards you in life within reason. So what I suggest is you write a little list of what, if you were a Libra in this instance, you would write the things that you would like to draw to you in your life. There may be 3 specific things that you might like to put down on your little list that you would like to attract. And I would also suggest 3 things that you might like to release. You'd put that on a piece of paper. As you go to light the candle, you would sort of voice it out aloud, the little things that are on your list that you're going to place underneath your candle before you light it. And then you would light the candle with that very strongly in your mind's eye, the intent of what you're trying to bring into your life or what you're trying to release. I suggest that you burn your candle between 1 to 2 hours a day. You don't need to do it for any longer than that, and please always be mindful of it, out of drafts, out of harm's way, and certainly out of the reach of children. And one of the things that I learned very early in my work with candles is you never place a candle directly on a table or on furniture. Always please use a coaster or a plate or something in between that. It stops the candle getting too hot. And particularly when they're in a glass vessel, they can sometimes break because the heat is too intense. The candles themselves, the soy wax doesn't burn hot, but the flame does, of course, so we always need to be mindful of that. And as I mentioned on last week's show, never blow your candle out. It's said to be blowing the little pixies and the fairies away. I always put my candles out with a snuffer, or I wave it out with my hand, so the choice is yours. So we're going to take our first caller, and it's Jessie in Cork in Ireland. Jessie, are you there? How wonderful to have someone from Ireland on the show. How are you, Jessie?
Yeah, good, thanks.
How can I help you, Jessie? Do you have a question I can help you with?
Not really. Are you able to see into the future?
I do, but I usually like to work with a question, Jessie. It just helps me connect with your energy. You know, if you said to me, you know, am I changing my job? Am I getting a new life? You know, a new person in my life to fall in love with, something along those lines, some area that, you know, there's a reason why you've called the show tonight to get a reading.
Oh, yes. Will I be moving back to England, do you think?
Are you about to change what, sweetie? I didn't quite catch that.
Will I be changing my lifestyle?
Will you be changing your...
Lifestyle.
Your lifestyle, okay. All right, the first thing I'm picking up around you, Jessie, was back in March this year, I felt that things started to sort of close down or shut down in your life. Was there a number of things that started to sort of end at that time for you, Jessie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that to me was the start of the winds of change happening for you. Look, I'd like to say everything's going to be completely changed and you're going to have a much better lifestyle by the end of the year, but I think that would be a little bit premature. I still feel there's a few more, two things in particular that have either got to come to an end or you've got to have an end date on them before we can sort of launch into the new. And part of that, I think, is very emotional. So whether or not that's cutting someone out of your life or finally accepting that maybe a couple of areas of your life are not going to change no matter what you do or what you contribute to it. This is the way it is, and you have to come to a point of acceptance. And sometimes that's a very hard thing to do, particularly if it's people that are very close to us and we feel this sense of responsibility that we should try and help them or make their life a better place. But what they're doing to us is drowning us, and that's what I feel around you. It's like you're such a giving person, Jessie. I think you forget to give to yourself. So these are the areas I think you need to consciously now work on. I feel 2018 is going to be a much more prosperous year for you than 2017 was. 2017 was a year of, pulling your energy back in, was changing things up, letting go of the things that you no longer needed, trying to reduce any personal debt you had, things like that, getting ready for a very different time in 2018, which is what I'm seeing coming up for you, particularly from about February onwards. I think things are going to move quite fast there for you. Are you looking to change your job next year, Jessie?
I'm hoping to get one.
Okay. Well, I don't know that there's going to be permanent work before then, but I do feel that there's a permanent job from about February onwards. I think there's going to be bits and pieces of work up until then, what I'd term as casual work, but from February I see tremendous stability with a permanent role.
Okay. Will there be anybody new coming into my life?
Yeah, there will be someone special. Was there somebody that you said goodbye to earlier this year?
What do you mean?
Did a relationship break up, or did you finally just overcome the hurt and the sadness from the past relationship? Because to me there was a closing off of a relationship this year.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because that to me now says you've worked through all that emotion. You're now ready to open your heart up to love. Look, I feel that there's going to be a choice of two. I've got one with very, very dark hair, almost black hair, but I feel that this person is somebody that you knew or either dated in your past. I want to say to you, be very careful of that connection. If somebody crosses your path again through social media or you bump into them in the local or something like that, be very careful not to sort of slip into that situation without your eyes wide open. I don't feel that person has changed in any way, even though they're claiming they have. Sometimes we need to revisit something for it to be finally complete too. But right behind that is a second opportunity where you're going to meet somebody that's completely brand new, somebody you've never dated before. He's got mid-brown hair, green to hazily coloured eyes. He's got a very rounded, sort of almost cherub-looking face, and he's got this beautiful smile. I mean, he does a lot of talking and a lot of laughing, and he makes you feel absolutely wonderful. I mean, I just think he's just such a nice, even, steady sort of guy. He's always happy, he's always smiling, and he's a very generous person with his time. So, you'll certainly feel very special and very, very important in his life, because once the two of you start dating, you do become the centre of his universe very quickly. That's all I can share with you now for now, Jessie, but I do think the tide is turning and your life is changing. So have a great night, and thank you for calling the show from Ireland. It was lovely to speak with you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sweetie. We're going to go to Michelle in Houston, Texas, USA. Are you there, Michelle?
I'm doing just fine.
That's good. How can I help you this evening?
Yes, I was just wondering, how does my financial situation seem? Is it going to improve? I just started a new job, but I have student loans, and I'm just really nervous. I've really been off my feet for a long time.
Yeah, I can see that around you, Michelle. Look, I wish I could wave a magic wand and it'd all be miraculously sorted now. I don't think that we can do that. But I can say to you, yes, I do believe things are going to improve. I think what you've got to do, Michelle, is not look at it as the whole picture. I think we need to sit down with a pad and a pen and look at exactly, get some columns happening of how much money you owe everywhere. And let's start sort of trying to work out some sort of budget that we can start working on that. And can I suggest it this way? You've got your weekly budget, you've got your student loans and bits and pieces you've got to pay for. But if we've got a spare $20, can we then take that $20 and put it extra off the smallest debt that you've got, so that we get that one out of the road quicker? So once we've got that one out of the road, then we take the money that we would have paid on that debt plus any spare money and move it along to the next one. That way I think you'll start to feel you're making progress, where if you're just paying minimum amounts off everything, nothing will ever seem like it's going to shift, and you'll sort of feel like I'm working and working and working and getting nowhere fast. But at least this way, as you see something being crossed off the list that we've achieved that we've paid that one off, it gives you a sense of, wow, I'm achieving something, and it gives you a little bit more of a rev to keep going. It's always very overwhelming, Michelle, when you've had, you know, a few years of being down on your luck where money hasn't been your friend, and, you know, the bills mount up, and, you know, student debts and all those sort of things mount up, and it seems like a mountain then that you can't climb. And also I'm going to say, Michelle, I feel during that period of time, I didn't feel your health was 100% either in this period of time where, you know, you've had this really, you were down on your luck, were you not? And including your health. But that seems to be sort of starting to rally again now too, which is wonderful.
It's still okay. I haven't had to go to the doctor. I haven't had any major issues.
No, but it might have just been on an energy level. You know, to me, I just didn't feel that you felt right.
No, I didn't. I didn't at all.
No. And, you know, sometimes that can be because we do get overwhelmed with our life, you know, with everything that's going on. And if you didn't have work and all those sort of things, that can take our energy away. But what I'm seeing now, as each day goes by, you've got a spring in your step. There's a twinkle in your eye. You know, you're feeling much more positive, much more motivated. This job that you've just started, I feel very excited about this because I feel before too long, I don't know whether it's necessarily before the end of this year, but I'm going to say well and truly before the end of February next year, I'm seeing an opportunity there for a promotion with a pay increase, some extra responsibility, but I also feel that there's going to be some on-the-job training prior to this. I feel they're very happy with the work that you're doing, and they feel that, you know, they've got you earmarked for a different role in the company. So that's exciting too.
Yeah, because I just started and they haven't really been giving me a lot of hours. That's another thing. I need more hours to, you know, I just started on the 29th of September and they haven't really given me a lot of hours so far. But, you know, it's so fresh, so I need more hours to make more money.
Yeah, but I feel that's coming. What I'm seeing is sort of by February next year, I don't even think it's a matter of hours. I actually feel that you'll have a permanent position and in a higher capacity than what you are now.
Okay.
Which that will obviously help the financial situation. But, you know, I mean, I do feel that they're happy with what you're doing, and I do feel as the weeks sort of head towards the end of the year, you will find each week there'll be more and more hours being offered to you, so that's good.
Okay, and what about my love life? Do you see anything positive happening there, or would I just say stagnant? Because I've really been just like disconnected from everybody.
I think this is it's been an interesting chapter in your life with your love life, Michelle. It's sort of like, yes, you could have gone back to a couple of people that were sort of significant there, but you sort of thought, no, that wasn't the right way to go. And I agree with you, it wasn't the right way to go. But what I feel has happened in probably the last 3 to 6 months in you personally, you've now decided what it is that you want and what it is you don't want in a relationship. So I don't want you to falter from that. I want you to keep that in your mind's eye of, you know, this is what I've set for myself. I don't want anything less than X, Y, Z. Well, then don't take anything less than that. I feel there's going to be a number of opportunities for you to go on dates. And I feel that with that, you go out on some of these dates and halfway through the night you think, oh, my heavens, why did I decide to go out with you? You're the most boring person on the planet. That's okay. I mean, we've sometimes got to go out with people like this to rule out that's not what we want. Even though they almost fitted the criteria, we can cross that one off the list. I am seeing someone significant coming into your life, but I'm going to say more towards the end of this year or the early part of next year. But I do feel in the lead up to that, there will be at least half a dozen other people that you'll go out on a date with in between before you meet the right person. So the right person that's coming towards you, I hope you don't have anything against men that have got a bit of a redness in their hair, you know, a bit of ginger in their hair. He's not a redhead. but there's flex, it's leaning towards that. It's a strawberry sort of blondie, reddy brown coloured hair. It's actually quite a pretty colour. And he's got the most infectious smile. He's a very, very nice man, well-mannered. I don't know that he's a professional singer, but a lot of times I hear him bursting into song, and he does actually have a nice voice. So it's somebody I feel that you're going to really connect with. There's a lot of fun. It's an easy-going relationship. Right from the very beginning, the communication's easy. The two of you get on well together. I feel he's also been through a number of changes in the last 2 years, so he's had to sort of make some radical changes in his life, and sort of, he says that he's not as fun-loving as he used to be. Well, he seems pretty fun-loving now to me, so he must have been over the top before, because he still has got this real bounce about him. He's just got such a nice energy. But I feel with this relationship, it'll just amble along for a while. I don't think you're going to get too serious too quickly. I think you've both had too many changes for that. But I do feel that this relationship will develop over time into a very serious, committed relationship, and the two of you will be very happy with where the relationship heads. So I'd like to thank you for your call, Michelle, and I hope that's been of help to you.
It has. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. So we've come to the end of the show again. My heavens, the time does go quick. So on next week's show, of course, we'll have our Simply Tarot card of the week. We'll also feature a new soy candle, and we'll move into our third part of our Saturn through the signs, where we focus on Libra, Scorpio and Sagittarius. And can I just end the show again on, please, all our prayers, all our positive thoughts, all our loving energy, anything that we can do to send out to the people of the California region with these fires. It is not an easy time for anybody that's near it or going through it, and we just hope against hope that there's not going to be any more lives lost. We just seem to be constantly around the planet sort of sending our prayers and our thoughts. And please, we shouldn't forget our dear friends in Las Vegas either. They're still trying to come to terms with what happened there, and all the hurricanes and the weather events around the world. But they're the two that I'd like to focus on at the moment. I mean, I just think if the more positive energy that we can all put out as a collective, the more maybe these people can sense that they're not alone, that there is people that do care about them, even if we don't live in the same area as them. So have a great week, and we'll do it all again in 7 days. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.